we are picking up, make sure no. We are picking up Act 2, Scene 2. We're still in the wood, and actually, this is where the wood begins, the wood scene begins. No, Act 2 begins with the wood. Thank you. Titania and her fairies all come in, and they sing her to sleep. So she falls asleep on the stage. Oberon enters, page 1199, round line 33 or so. And Oberon squeezes the juice on her eyelids. Let me very briefly recap what happened just before this. So Oberon sends Puck to go around the world and find this flower. It's called Love and Idleness, according to your footnote, which is a pansy. To get this flower, whose juice has the property of a love potion. You squeeze it in a person's eyes, the next thing they see when they wake up, that person will be madly in love with. He does this because he's going to put the juice in Titania's eyes so that she wakes up and falls in love with something monstrous. He also tells Puck, you're going to find an Athenian youth and an Athenian maid in the forest, all right? The youth is disdainful to the maid who is madly in love with him. Arrange it so that they fall asleep, put the juice in the youth's eyes so that when he wakes up, he will be madly in love with the woman who loves him. In other words, Oberon wants to fix, okay, this love that's gone bad, so to speak, okay? So, this scene then begins. We have Titania asleep. We see Oberon come in. He squeezes the juice into her eyes and says, what thou seest when thou dost wake, do it for thy true love take. Love and languish for his sake. Be it, and he lists a bunch of animals. In thy eye that shall appear when thou wakest, it is thy dear. Wake when some vile thing is near. Now, notice all the things he mentions, as I said, are animals. He doesn't go next down that great chain of being to the human realm. He goes a step below that. Okay? So, Lysander and Hermia come in. Oberon has left just before. So if we have the stage, Oberon leaves through one door, they come through the other door. And Lysander says, line 42 or so, fair love, you faint with wandering in the wood. And to speak truth, I forgot the way. In other words, I'm lost, which is why they're wandering. So he says, let's camp here. Cool. She says, be it so, Lysander. Find you out of bed, for I upon this bank will rest my head. So she's found a spot where the ground kind of moves up a little bit so she can use that high ground as a pillow. You go find someplace else to sleep, she says. Lysander, one turf shall serve as pillow for us both. One heart, one bed, two bosoms, and one troth. No. His two lines mean, let's sleep together. Let's lie down next to each other. Notice, one turf, pillow for us both. One heart. Why one heart? Why are they in the wood to begin with? They're going to get married. They're going off to his aunt's house to get married. They are already of one heart. So, one heart, one bed, two bosoms. Why? Because two separate bodies, he says, and one troth. Okay? Your gloss has for troth, faith, troth plight. Troth literally is truth. One truth. There's one truth between us. I'm faithful to you, you're faithful to me, I pledge myself to you, you've pledged yourself to me. Why? Because they're out there to get married again. He's done the proverbial, will you marry me? And she has said yes. They've plighted their troth. Okay? She says, nay, good Lysander, for my sake, my dear, lie further off yet, do not lie so near. Why for my sake? Okay, remember, as far as they know, they're the only two in the forest or in the wood. Earlier, before this scene begins, in the previous scene, we see Helena and Demetrius. And just before Demetrius tries to ditch Helena, what does he say to her? He brings up a possibility, let's say. He says, you do impeach your modesty too much. He says, your virgin maidenhead is essentially in danger. Why? Here you are, a single young woman, a desirable, beautiful young woman. You're out here in the wood, all alone with me. I could take advantage of you. She replies, no, your virtue is enough protection for me. Your virtue is she calls it her privilege. In other words, she trusts inherently, implicitly in Demetrius's honor. We see the word, just 1 second, top of the next page, we see this word used. And this word has a kind of a constellation of meanings that are all tied together. Honor, nobility, integrity, virtue, loyalty, faithfulness, trustfulness, trustworthiness. Okay? When she talks about his virtue, she's including all of these meanings in that meaning. Right? I'm going to get to this in just a second. So Hermia here says, for my sake. What does she mean by sake? For her well-being, for her honesty, for her modesty, for her, all of these lie farther off. Is she implying anything by that? Is she suggesting anything? I think she is. I think her implication is, if you're over there and I'm over here, and the way it's often done in the play is you'll have Hermia on one side of the stage when they go to sleep, and Lysander on the other. Why? Because she's suggesting, if you're over there and I'm over here, nothing can happen between us. But if you're right next to me, is she saying something, suggesting something possibly about Lysander? I don't think she is. I could be wrong. I think she's saying, I don't trust myself, Lysander. Remember what the Duke said to her in his speech with her about what are her options. When she says, my Lord, I know not why I'm so bold to speak, but, what's the worst that can happen to me? And he says, know your youth, your desires, your blood. What's he getting at with all that? You're young, you're beautiful, you're desirable, you're hormonal, essentially. And he would say the same thing to a man. Can you forego the company of men or a man all of your life? And it's clear she can't. That's why she's running off to the forest with Lysander to get married. For my sake, I think she's implying, I don't trust myself, Lysander. So you sleep over there and I'll sleep over here. Lie further off. Do not lie so near. Lie. If Shakespeare can pun on a word, he will. And he does, every time. He says, no. Take the sense, sweet, of my innocence. What does he mean by the sense? The inner meaning. No, he's saying, you misunderstand me. Sorry, I haven't been clear. So he's going to make it clear. Love takes the meaning in love's conference. And you got a gloss down there, giving a possible meaning. But I don't think it's just, Love teaches each lover to interpret the other's meaning lovingly. I think it's more love teaches the other lover to take the speaker's meaning innocently. He's saying, I don't mean anything by let's sleep together. I'm not saying let's go to sleep together. Let's bed each other. He's saying, let's just lie down next to each other and sleep like that. So he says, here's what I mean. I mean that my heart unto yours is knit. Knit. Like this sleeve is sewn to this fabric. He says, our hearts are already joined together. How do we know? Will you marry me? Yes, I will. That's a pledge. That's a bond. Okay? My heart unto yours is knit, so that but one heart we can make of it. What two have joined together, let no one rend asunder, is one of the lines in some versions of Christian marriage ceremony. But one heart we can make of it. Two bosoms interchained with an oath. Interchained. It's like there's a chain going from my heart to yours. What's the chain? It's that oath. What's an oath? It's a solemn vow. It's a promise. So then, two bosoms. Why? Because he doesn't become her. She doesn't become him. They still remain two bodies. And a single troth. Pledge of loyalty. Okay? So, then, by your side, no bedroom me deny. Bedroom. Room for a bed. No space. Let me lie down right next to you. Why? For lying so, okay, horizontal on the ground next to you, Hermia, I do not lie. That is, speak an untruth. So, she hears him. She hears lie, lie, lying, lie, because he uses that word lie twice. And then it says lying, and then it says lie again. She says, Lysander riddles very prettily. In other words, I like how you're playing with words. She's just said, Shakespeare's punning. That's a good pun. Now much beshrew my manners and my pride, if Hermia meant to say Lysander lied. Beshrew, curse. Forgive me, Lysander, is what she's saying. I did not mean to imply that you were lying. Here's what she means. But gentle friend, for love and courtesy lie further off in human modesty. Okay? Gentle friend. When she calls him gentle, she's not saying, but nice friend, but kind friend. She's using a word that goes back to the Middle English period that has, as I said, a whole constellation of meanings. It's the root for modern English gentleman. Okay? It implies a sense of honor, a sense of nobility, not having anything to do with one's birth. Nobility is referring to action, noble action, honorable action, virtuous action, positive action. Action always aimed at benefiting the other, not oneself. Okay? Integrity, virtue, loyalty, faithfulness, honesty, trustworthiness. All of those things are tied up in the meaning of that word gentle. So she just said, you're the greatest of the greatest. Okay? Friend. For love, because of love and courtesy, you sleep over there and I'll sleep over there. Why? Because of love. What's love? It's not just, the warm fuzzies. It's not just sexual desire. Love is wanting what is best for the other, whatever that other is. So, because of that and modesty, and courtesy. Courtesy is the proper behavior of those at the court. See, Middle Ages thought courtesy, the root of that word comes from the heart. Cur, cardiac, okay? And that implies, again, it's tied to all this. It implies all of this. So courtesy, proper manners, proper behavior, noble behavior. It's always an action. Virtue is always an action. It's never just an idea. It has always got to be demonstrated, lived out, practiced. So for love and courtesy, lie further off, she says, in human modesty. And your gloss gives you a couple of meanings possibly for human. Courteous, okay? And humane. I'm not quite sure what it means by humane. Here's what I think it means. She's drawn a distinction between all of this kind of action and their opposites, or its opposites. Dishonorable, unnoble, ignoble, false, selfish. So what apply all of those to modesty, and what do you get? I think she's suggesting, I trust you implicitly, Lysander. Who is it she doesn't trust? Herself. I think she's saying, if you're over there, then she can't give into what? There's going to be an image coming up very shortly. She can't give in to temptation. Okay? We're going to see Hermia wake up from her. She's going to come in a moment. She's going to fall asleep. We're going to have Lysander fall in love with Helena. Hermia's going to wake up and say, I dreamed there was a serpent at my heart. Why serpent? Why at her heart? Serpent, biblical image, it's temptation. And it ate her heart, meaning her heart is gone. Why? Because Lysander has fallen in love with Helena. Lysander, we have one heart, he says here. Her heart is now metaphorically gone. Okay? So she's getting at, I don't trust myself. So she says, such separation, as may well be said, becomes, it's appropriate, it's fitting for a virtuous bachelor and a maid. Until their wedding night. Then, no holds barred. So far be distant. And good night, sweet friend. Thy love ne'er alter till thy sweet life end. What does that last line mean? Love me forever. Or, love me till the day you die. In kind of the traditional, standard, stereotypical Christian wedding ceremony, the vows end with what? Till death do us part. Okay? That's what she's just said. Don't let your love alter. Till what? Until you die. I don't know that it's in here. I almost made a reference of it to my first class. Shakespeare has a sonnet. It's sonnet 116. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds. Okay? Just those two lines. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments, obstacles. Love is not altered. It doesn't change. Love is not altered. When it alteration finds, when love discovers, the rest of the poem goes on, alteration in the beloved, in the other person that is loved. That is, that other person now loves something or someone else. The first person's love doesn't change. She's saying, don't change your love. Notice how he takes her words. Amen, amen. To that fair prayer say I. He takes what she said, not as a request from him, but as a prayer. And he says, and then, what's the then? And then end life when I end loyalty. Rhymed in Shakespeare's day, the I in loyalty. When I stop being loyal to you, then let my life come to an end. And in the next scene, we're going to see that loyalty come to an end. Right? So, they fall asleep. He's over here, she's over there. Puck comes in. He's gone around through the forest, and he says, huh, here's an Athenian maiden sleeping, and here's the Athenian youth. And he says, now I won't read that. Demetrius and Helena come in. Okay? So he applies the love juice to Lysander's eyes, not knowing this is the wrong couple. Okay? So, let's say you got Lysander asleep on this side of the stage, and Hermia asleep on this side of the stage. Demetrius and Helena come running through. Your stage directions, enter Demetrius and Helena, running. Why does it have Demetrius mentioned first? Because Helena's chasing him. This is important. So, they come running in through the same doors. Which side of the stage? Notice I've got the arrow drawn here. They argue back and forth. Okay. Demetrius leaves. Helena is still here. And she sees Lysander. She thinks maybe he's dead. Dead or asleep? I see no blood, no wound. You see somebody you think might be dead or might just be asleep. You don't see any wound. What do? Wake him up. Lysander, if you live, good sir, awake and run through fire, I will for thy sweet sake. Transparent Helena. You've got a gloss for transparent. Radiant, like a light is shining through her. It can also mean transparent in that there is nothing false about her. There's no shadow. There's nothing hidden. You get what you see. Nature shows art that through thy bosom makes me see thy heart. Where's Demetrius? He asks. Why? Does he know that Helena told Demetrius that he and Hermia were running off to the woods? Nothing in the play gives that. Does he think Demetrius is in the wood? Nothing in the play suggests that. So why does he say, where's Demetrius? It goes back to the opening scene of the entire play. What did Lysander tell Aegeus and Duke Theseus about Demetrius? He made love to Nadar's daughter, Helena, and stole her heart. The reason he's asking where is Demetrius is he wants to make Demetrius pay for how he treated Helena. Do we get any indication of that earlier in the play? Nope. So why is he doing it now? Because he's so in love with her, he wants to defend all of this in her. He wants to defend her honor against Demetrius. Do not say so, Lysander, say not so. What though he love your Hermia? See, she thinks he's after Demetrius because Demetrius wants to marry Hermia. Lord, what though Hermia still loves you? Then be content. In other words, man, you've got it made. Remember? Hermia and Lysander, at the beginning of the play, love each other. That's what the arrows there mean. Demetrius loves Hermia. Helena loves Demetrius. Now, however, Lysander doesn't love Hermia anymore. Now, Lysander loves Helena. Hermia still loves Lysander. Helena still loves Demetrius. Demetrius still loves Hermia. At least before two of the lovers were properly matched, now they're totally screwed up. Which is going to explain a little bit of Oberon's anger when he comes in a moment. Be content. Be satisfied. Why? Love is, it's the greatest thing. It's everything. You should be happy. Content with Hermia? He ought to say that with disdain, drooling, from his lips. No, I do repent the tedious minutes I with her have spent. So if you're in love, been married nearly 38, 30, whatever, 39, man, 39 years this May. If you're in love, what should the time spent with your lover be like? It should be like time's not going by. It should be wonderful. What are tedious minutes? I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I can look at your faces and go, tedious minutes. I do that with my Tuesday, Thursday class because, man, everybody in there just absolutely hates it. Half of them are asleep most of the time. What's tedious mean? It's like time slows down and doesn't go, and it just wastes you away. It's usually used to describe some kind of work where it's just soul crushing. Okay? So I couldn't work in an office. It would, it'd drive me crazy. Okay? Tedious minutes I with her have spent. What should that tell Helena? Before he even says anything else. What's wrong? Not Hermia, but Helena, and there he says it for the first time. Not Hermia, but Helena I love. And then he gives an analogy. Who will not change a raven for a dove? That's also a casting direction on Shakespeare's part. Hermia should be, and we're going to get more indication of this later, Hermia should have dark hair and have a darker complexion. Helena, and short, by the way, that's the key thing, short. Helena should be tall, willowy, blonde, and very fair complected. Very light skin. Raven, black, kind of when you're talking about birds, a larger, heavy-set bird, so to speak, compared to a dove. White, usually, but they can be also kind of cream and almost tan colored. Who will not change a raven for a dove? And then he gives this little part. And I want you to keep this in mind when Bottom responds to Titania and talks about love and reason. So, the will of man is by his reason swayed. And reason says you are the worthier made. So, the first part. The will of man is by reason swayed. What he's getting at, I didn't write this on the board for my first class, I should have. He's talking about the three faculties Aristotle says humans have. Reason, will, and essentially passion, or if you want, the emotions. Okay? Those are the three internal things that guide our actions, so to speak. Reason, where's reason located? It's up here. And Aristotle said because it's up here, it should be the one in control. It's the highest. Okay? The will is in here. It's in the chest. It's the thing that says, I'm going to do. It's the volition. Passion or emotions, they're down here in the belly. Okay? The will of man is by his reason swayed. That is, the reason should direct the will what action to take. Reason says you are the worthier maid. How so? How does reason say Helena is worthier, meaning of more worth, than Hermia? Could he put that reason into words? I mean, he already compared raven with the dove. Is his reason swaying his will at this point? No. Why does he love her? It's a love potion. What has happened? The potion is swaying his reason. Which of these three does the potion work on? We're not exactly sure, but if any of them, it's probably this. It's just passion. Raw, uncontrolled desire. You put the juice in the eyes, and that raw, uncontrolled desire, the first thing it sees latches onto that. Okay? We're going to hear almost the same thing about reason being swayed by the will from Titania when she sees bottom, when she wakes up. Okay? So, and reason says you are the worthier maid. Things growing are not ripe until their season. This is an image Shakespeare loves. He uses it in a lot of stuff. Are not ripe until their reason. So I, being young, till now, ripe not to reason. He's telling us, or he's telling Helena, until today, until just this moment, I was but a little boy in my reason. And my reason as a little boy said, ooh, Hermia's the greatest. But now, as an adult man, with grown-up reason, I look at you and say, you are the greatest, fairest, most beautiful, etc. And touching now the point of human skill, and you've got a gloss down there, reaching, skill, judgment, reason, etc. Reason becomes the marshal to my will and leads me to your eyes. What is a marshal? What does that mean? Reason becomes marshal to my will. It's a noun, it's not a verb. It's a controlling thing. When you marshal your troops, because that word is usually related, or it's used only in a military context. When you marshal your troops, what are you doing? You're setting them, you're arranging them for battle where they will have the greatest effect and achieve victory. So he says, reason becomes the marshal, it becomes the controller, the director of my will. So the will is going to go forward and do what? And lead the will to your eyes. Why? Because in her eyes he sees love's stories written in love's richest book. Another image Shakespeare uses everywhere, especially in the sonnets. It's looking into a person's eyes where one can see real love. But it's only when you're looking into the person who you love's eyes. I could look into somebody else's eyes and not see love. Why? Because I, to use language that we're going to see later in the play, am not enamored of that person. Enamored means inside, loved. Falling in love, what does that mean? You fall into this state of being. Well, that love enters, okay? How does it enter? Medieval Renaissance notion, it enters through the eyes. The medieval and Renaissance people, they believe the way we are able to see is our eyes shoot out beams of light. There are beams of light going out of your eyes right now. And that light is bouncing off everything and creating this image. Well, there's some truth to that. It's not our eyes producing that. It's light beams shining off this, and it gets made sense of in our brain. But their belief was That's why if you look too closely at someone, Ulisa's eye beams and my eye beams can intersect. And they talk about, in all kinds of poetry, they talk about those eye beams winding and getting the intercourse of eye beams, eye sex, in other words. That's why you don't look. That's why you don't stare at somebody. The whole thing about the quote unquote male gaze. It's not just, that's violent. There's a danger in that. You can fall in love that way. Okay? So, he says, I look in your eyes, and what do I see? All of love stories. In other words, your eyes are like the source of love. Where is love, according to the phrase? It's in the eye of the beholder. Okay? Helena. Now, you look at that speech, first of all, you look at that speech by Lysander, especially the last half of it, and it kind of makes you go, wow, man, he's falling hard. And, wow, I wish I could talk like that. Helena. Wherefore was I to this keen mockery born? What's keen? Sharp, razor edge. What does she mean by mockery? It's verbal wit. It's satire. Practical joke. She thinks he's playing a game on her, or a practical joke. She's going to, in just a moment, tie what he's doing with something that happened earlier in the play. When at your hands did I deserve this scorn? Meaning, what did I ever do to you, Lysander, to deserve this? She's kind of implying, did I ever lead you on in some way? Remember Demetrius? Do I entice you? Do I speak you fair? And she's like, no, and that makes me love you all the more. Is it not enough? Is it not enough that I did never, no, nor never can, notice the double negative. Why? He's not canceling it out. He's emphasizing, Shakespeare, emphasizing, no, nor never can, actually triple negative, no, nor never. Can what? Deserve a sweet look from Demetrius's eye, but you must flout my insufficient sigh. Why does she bring up Demetrius? She looks at Demetrius the way Lysander is now looking at her. And Demetrius never says anything close to what Lysander has said. She is suggesting maybe Lysander and Demetrius are working together. Why does she love Demetrius? Go back to before the play began. We are told by Lysander that he, Demetrius, wooed her and won her heart. Or to use the language that Aegeus uses about Lysander and Hermia, he's bewitched her. How different is bewitching than pouring a love potion into someone's eyes? If you bewitch them, what happens to their reason? Out the window. So they only act will according to passion. She says, you do me wrong, good sooth, you too. In such disdainful manner me to woo. She says, I thought you of more true gentilesse. I thought you were good, true, honorable, faithful, loyal, honest, virtuous. Oh, that a lady of one man refused, that is Demetrius, should of another therefore be abused. And she runs off. And Lysander realizes she didn't see Hermia over there. Sleep thou there, and never mayst thou come, Lysander, near. Well, Before he woke up, what were his last words? I will always be near you. For as a surfeit of the sweetest things, the deepest loathing to the stomach brings, or as the heresies that men do leave are hated most of those they did deceive. So thou, my surfeit and my heresy, who's the thou? Hermia. What does he mean by surfeit? Surfeit of sweetest things, like something that is sweet on the outside, and you eat it, and the covering melts and dissolves, and what are you left with? The sour taste inside. Or a heresy that you believe at one point to be true and later come to understand is false. It makes you what? It makes you among the greatest of haters of that heresy. See, the people who were never affected by the heresy, it's not bothered by them as much. Look at the most rabid, think politics for a minute. Yeah, it kind of applies. The most rabid anti-Democrat, or the most rabid anti-Biden, or the most rabid anti-Trump are often, not always the case, often the people who had once been supporters. And then the person does something that, so to speak, pulls the scales off their eyes, and they see that individual as they now think really is, as that person really is. And it makes them hate him all the more. He's saying, I now see Hermia isn't what I thought she was. So he says, of all be hated, but of the most by me. Why? Because now he's going to honor Helen and be her knight. And he leaves, and that's when Hermia wakes up. Help! Help! Do thy best, Lysander, to pluck this crawling serpent from my breast. I mean, for pity, what a dream. And now she realizes, oh, it was a dream. Remember what Hippolyta said? 4 nights will dream away the time until their wedding. What was the dream? Methought a serpent ate my heart away. Notice, not a serpent nibbled at my heart, ate my heart away. My heart is gone. Why? Because Lysander now loves Helena. That makes Helena what? The serpent. Okay? And then she realizes Lysander's not there. And so she says, well, I perceive you are not nigh, you're not nearby. Either death or you I'll find immediate lie. What does that mean? If she doesn't find Lysander, what's she going to find? Death. How so? Death at her own hand, death at another hand. If I can't live with you, what was the vow? What was the prayer that they said before they fell asleep? Let our love last till death. At this point, the play can become what? Very quickly a tragedy. Very quickly. Act 3 begins. Notice, 2 ends, Titania's still sleeping. She's on the stage. None of the humans see her because she's a fairy, but she sleeps all through this. Act 3 begins, scene 1. The rude mechanicals, the rustics come in. Why? They're going to put on their play. Okay? So they come in, and they start, and Puck enters. Line 58 or so. Puck, what hempen homespuns have we swaggering here, so near the cradle of the fairy queen? Hempen homespuns. That means guys dressed in clothing made out of hemp fabric. Fabric made from the hemp plant. Okay? And he goes, oh, they're going to put on a play. I'm going to watch and listen and maybe be an actor. What characterizes Puck? He likes to play tricks on people. So he's saying, I'm going to get involved. And what happens? Pyramus has a part, aka Bottom, has a part where he has to leave the stage for a moment. He goes off the stage. Okay? We hear, Quince give a stage direction and tells Pyramus, when you hear this line, that's when you need to come back in. Bottom comes back in. But he comes back in with an ass's head on his head. And what that means is he's not like wearing a mask. Within the fiction of the play, his head is a real donkey's head. Long snout, big ears. Bottom comes in. If I were fair, Thisbe, I were only thine. If I were fair, if I were beautiful, if I were handsome, then I would only be yours. And Quince, oh monstrous, oh strange, we're haunted, fly. And everybody leaves except for Puck. Okay? Puck sings. Everybody leaves except for Bottom. So Puck says, I will lead you around. And he goes off the stage, kind of, and he pretends to be some of the other characters by mimicking their voices. Bottom says, I'm just going to stand here. They're trying to scare me. Snout comes in. O Bottom, thou art changed. What do I see on thee? And Bottom gives us a little dramatic irony. What do you see? You see an ass head of your own? See, Bottom doesn't know he's been transformed. Quince comes in. Bless thee, Bottom, bless thee. Thou art translated. He means transformed. He doesn't know the difference between the two words. I see their knavery. This is to make an ass of me. Well, he has been made into an ass. Because notice, that great chain of being, you've got the fairies, human realm, animal realm, etc. Bottom is now not fully human, not fully animal. He's midway. So, he's there alone, except for Titania sleeping, and he thinks, I'll calm myself by singing. Bottom should not have a good voice. Bottom also should not be attractive. He doesn't necessarily mean he has to be ugly. Murfreesboro Little Theater did a production over 20 years ago. One of my kids was in it. And the guy they had playing Bottom was absolutely disgustingly, grossly fat. This kid, he's like 20, 22. He had to weigh 350 pounds. Multiple chins, not good looking, etc. The woman who played Titania was drop dead gorgeous. All right? Which is important for the play. So he sings like this. The ouzel cocketh. Titania, awaking. What angel wakes me from my flowery bed? See, it's thought an angel's voice was enough that if you heard an angel singing, it would rapture you. Like the Protestant idea of, when Jesus returns, Christians will meet him up in heaven and everybody else, suffers the consequences. Your soul would leave your body because of the beauty of the sound. What angel, and he keeps singing horribly. She says, I pray thee, gentle mortal, sing again. My ear is much enamored of thy note. Enamored. The inside, taken control of, amore, love. There's a problem with that because of how he sings. So is mine eye enthralled to thy shape, enslaved to. And this isn't why it was necessary to make Bottom 350 pounds. The shape is the ass's head, the human body. And thy fair virtue's force perforce doth move me on the first view to swear, I love thee. Here's a problem. Go back to what Lysander said about virtue and reason and swaying the will. Here she says, thy fair virtue's force. What virtue's force? What virtue? See, the word virtue, its original meaning means power to act. But in the Roman sense, in the Latin sense, it meant power to act well, good, appropriately, with all the notions of virtuously. Your virtues perforce doth move me. That's the will. You make me what? To say and swear I love you. What's the problem? Well, she's under the spell of the juice. She attributes what she feels, thinks, to virtue in reason. That it's her reason forcing her to do this. Okay? Again, it's her perspective. Bottom. So Bottom hears her say this. Methinks, mistress, you should have little reason for that. He gets to the nub. He gets to the heart of the point. Methinks, mistress, you should have little reason for that. You should have little reason to say, swear, I love you. From an audience perspective, true or false? Damn straight, that's true. There is no reason for Titania to love Bottom. It doesn't make any sense at all. But he goes on. And yet, to say the truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. Reason and love keep little company together nowadays. Go back to that Aristotelian thing I mentioned. Where is reason? It's up here. Where's the will? It's here. He says they keep little company. What's company? Company's not like a place you work for. Company, being together. A company has a common goal, a common aim. Okay? He says reason and love today don't keep company. They don't have a common goal. They don't have a common aim. And he says, the more the pity that some honest neighbors will not make them friends. Well, what are the honest neighbors of reason and love? In the Aristotelian sense, this. Or is this love? And this is the thing. It's a little unclear. But he says there are other faculties in the human being that should make reason and love work together, work in tandem. Falling in love should not be, Bottom is suggesting, irrational. And yet, what has just happened to Titania? She's fallen in love with a creature human, an ass human. That is irrational. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? Titania, thou art as wise as thou art beautiful. The way most people read that is they look at it and say, okay, how beautiful is Bottom? Here, not at all. So then how wise is he? He's not. But look at it from Titania's perspective. How beautiful is Bottom? She's madly in love with him. From her perspective, how wise is he? Do we discount her perspective because of the love potion? Or does Shakespeare want us to say, his Bottom may be a bit wiser than he comes across? Should reason and love go together? Should people look at a couple and go, how the hell did those two ever get together? Or is there truth in this statement, in the sentiment, love is in the eye of the beholder? And because I am not the beholder that somebody else is, I can't say that's not love. Okay, we'll stop there. I wanted to get a little bit farther on, but didn't, obviously. So we'll pick up on Monday there. My goal is to finish Midsummer Night's Dream next week, including Friday. Syllabus has us starting Hamlet on Friday, but hopefully we'll at least get through this. All right, have a good weekend. Remember, there's a quiz due